I'm Marciana Fernandez Bello and welcome back to the Cambia News. Timor-Leste Petroleum Fund Policy and Strategy.
The Petroleum Fund has been the main source of income for the state of Timor-Leste since the country's independence. However, because the government has not managed the Petroleum Fund prudently, Timor-Leste is under threat that the fund will be depleted within the next 10 years, which could lead the country to long-term fiscal crisis. Therefore, as a sovereign entity, the government is making great efforts to create policies and strategies to rescue Timor-Leste from the long-term fiscal conditions that threaten its future due to the depletion of oil funds. According to Ricardo Batista, chairman of the committee dealing with economic issues, the government already has a policy and strategy in place to respond to the depletion of oil funds within the next 10 years. In an interview with Radio Recambio journalists at the National Parliament, Ricardo Batista, chairman of committee which deals with economic issues, stated in an interview, "As a member of parliament or the government, I want to say what the government's plan is if our oil funds run out. I think the government has had too much time to explore and develop oil reserves in Bayundan and other wells. The government has a policy in place to multiply the funds and invest them wisely, so we can earn returns through this investment. That's what the government is doing, and our Prime Minister has said that through this investment we generate revenue or interest of almost $6 million US. In addition to the revenue we get from the wells, we also invest in the fund itself to generate revenue through multiplication. Another option is that if the funds are depleted, we all know that many of our sectors are underdeveloped. We have sectors that can provide income or revenue to our country. The tourism sector, which we have not developed yet. To develop tourism, we must first develop our basic infrastructure, making it easier for people to reach tourist destinations. To make our destination attractive for tourists, it is essential to have good public transportation so that people can easily reach it. Therefore, our basic infrastructure needs to be good, including roads, electricity, and water availability. This will facilitate tourist access to our area and encourage them to stay longer. Moreover, our private sector must also be productive, enabling people to work and stay in our country. We need to promote what we have in our area of tourism, and to do so, we must find ways to attract tourists. This is what we need to do if the oil funds run out. Ricardo emphasized the importance of agriculture and fisheries in Timor-Leste development, stating that the country cannot rely solely on imports for food and that these sectors need investment in infrastructure such as roads, irrigation system, and water access. He also highlighted the potential of the country's sea to generate a bigger economy through revenue generating opportunities. The oil fund, which is currently declining, is the country's biggest source of stability, but is not. He mentioned specific opportunities such as the Greater Sunrise Well and Dry Land Well in Timor-Leste, which could replace the declining Bayundan Well and diversify the country's revenue streams. Ricardo concluded that if the oil funds run out, the country must be prepared to adapt and diversify its economy by developing productive sectors to respond to its debt to international organizations like the World Bank and ADB. The chairman of committee who deals with economic issues added, "As I've said, we must accelerate the development of basic infrastructure for sectors such as tourism, agriculture, and fisheries. The process must move forward willingly or unwillingly, and we must focus on these areas to tap their potential revenue sources. The fisheries sector, in particular, in an area that requires immediate attention. We must have efficient port in place within the next 10 years. We must be interested in developing the fishing port and reinforcing these areas to generate revenue. These sectors are productive and can generate funds, but we have not been able to tap into them. Our money can run out within the next 10 years if we do not diversify our revenue streams. This is a public secret. Everyone knows that if we do not get revenue from other sectors, our funds will run out. That's why this government is committed to developing these productive sectors. For instance, we have invested in irrigation dams and built irrigation systems that provide water to our agriculture. This enables farmers to cultivate their fields and produce good results. We are working to replace some of our dependence on oil with revenue from these sectors. We must also negotiate for the Greater Sunrise Project to speed up its development. If oil reserves dry up, we need to alternative revenue sources to respond to our economic challenges. Loans are a policy that the state adopts to ensure the important works are implemented by the government. Regarding loans, why do we still borrow? It's because this priority really needs to be done, and we have to withdraw money. If the general state budget is not enough, we have to borrow to secure the work and ensure that it is finished on time and implemented well. In my opinion, the loan is a political tool that our state is using to ensure interest in the works to be implemented in our country. According to the CSR, it's 3%, but recently we've taken a higher CSR 3%. Meanwhile, Timor-Leste has resources such as gold, silver, and titanium that are currently being developed, which can help us respond to the conditions in the next 10 years if the oil fund runs out. Virginia added, according to the provisions of the Ministry of Finance, our mineral fund will last until 2035 if we continue to use our current mechanism. We take $2 billion from the state budget each year, leaving a remaining balance. I don't believe that domestic revenue alone can solve our problems. Public institutions and public enterprises that create and bring revenue to the state cannot be developed. We also have loans as source of financing and revenue for the state during this time. We make loans that help with our expenditure in the country. This year, according to the state plans, if we follow the plan presented by the interior government, we expect to have production by 2026. However, as I say today, the interior government does not give priority to this issue. Therefore, in this government, we have to start working on this plan again. We plan to start production by 2031. If we calculate this correctly, it means that before 2031, we can have some replacement for our oil fund, even if Bayenden is no longer producing oil that from other sources that come into play. Not only will we rely on oil, but we are also currently developing resources from our land. There are also gold, silver, and many other minerals being developed. According to the information we received in plenary, there are 20 companies conducting research on our mineral for gold, silver, and titanium that do not rely on oil. Hopefully, we can get the results so that we can explore this service in the next year or two. This will also generate some revenue that will enter the state's coffers.
Sira serviço clear ni are dane nessa mo senhor ministro Rasik ministro do petróleo baos ema fom nie ya conhecimento dia ba área petróleo ne babu que era susi.
In addition, the opposition bench that oversees the petroleum affairs also expressed their concerns about the petroleum fund, which the state takes with a large amount each year. Antonio Bianco said, Bayenden is the production we sell to create a petroleum fund. In the first constitutional government, Bayenden was producing oil which was used to create the fund that has been used until now. However, Bayenden has begun to produce less oil, Although the government is currently trying to increase its participation in biodyn by 16%, they have promised to produce something next year. We use our mineral fund budget of $18 billion each year, but this year we use only $2,900,000,000. If we continue to take funds at this rate, it's clear that the time to use the fund is less than 10 years. The government has promised to produce oil by 2026, but recently, during the debate on the general state budget, the Prime Minister said that it's not easy and that there is no indication of how long it will make. According to analysis from the central bank, our fund is difficult until 2033. As opposition members, we always ask the government to invest in productive sectors such as the agriculture, coffee, and tourism as a cooperative so that we can bring back revenue to cover the state before we wait for uncertainty from oil in Timor-Leste. We can also remove domestic revenues. This is what we suggest the government to look at. However, the government doesn't care about these things. We want our independence to be stronger and hope that this government can fulfill its promise to bring greater sunrise to Timor-Leste.
Ninia lucru masira ita hengatat hosi parte de Timor-Leste ninia emasian vega saidane bele emar.
Reporting by Rakambia Team.
That's all for today. A big thank you from Rakambia team, and we look forward to seeing you in the next edition.